A discarded tank returns so broken, even the dungeon mistakes her for its monster. Spoiler warning, because this is where Hoegwihan's survival story stops feeling like a simple comeback and starts turning into something much darker. She is a low-ranked tank who was betrayed, abandoned, and forced to keep living through a curse that rebuilds her body even when death should take her. So when she stands in front of monsters now, she does not fight like someone trying to avoid pain. She fights like pain is the only language she still trusts. And that is the problem, because the people around her are about to learn that saving Hoegwihan is not the same as understanding her. The hunt starts in open grass, but it already feels wrong. A purple insect-like monster slips away, lunges from awkward angles, and keeps forcing the hunters to adjust. Everyone else treats it like a dangerous creature to control. Hoegwihan treats it like a death sentence she refuses to accept. She moves in close, too close, muttering with pure survival panic that she does not want to be torn apart and does not want to die. That line hits hard because it is not normal battlefield fear. It is memory. The blonde hunter notices her footwork and calls it beautiful, almost admiring the madness, while another fighter gets knocked back. Then a huge golden spell crashes down and finally ends the creature. But the real discovery is not the monster. It is Hoegwihan's combat style, and how little she seems to care what her own body costs. After that fight, everyone keeps circling the same question. Should Hoegwihan really be going anywhere near another dungeon? In a training area, a red-haired young man worries about her leaving with other people, and others quietly measure her condition like she is both patient and weapon. A black-haired hunter on the phone wonders why someone high-ranking would care about her at all, and the word abyss starts hanging over the room like a warning bell. Then the group enters the dark dungeon, and Hoegwihan changes. She senses something familiar, like the place is brushing against her memories, and she says she has checked her own mind. Before anyone can fully stop her, she rushes in. Okay, that is the reckless part. The terrifying part is that she does not run like someone chasing a monster. She runs like someone recognizing a grave. Inside the dungeon, the party gets dragged into a chaotic fight against fast, bird-like, and skeletal monsters. Hoegwihan stays near the front even when the creatures swing with limbs sharp enough to shred the formation. A normal tank holds the line. Hoegwihan keeps crossing it. She lunges into danger, intercepts attacks, and forces the others to react around her instead of with her. The blonde hunter, the blue-haired hunter, and the rest can see the same thing. Her movement is effective, but it is not healthy. A defensive technique rises to block a heavy blow, buying everyone a second to breathe, but even that does not make the dungeon feel beaten. The monsters keep changing pressure, and when a darker armored threat appears, the group realizes they are not cleaning up a fight. They are being led deeper into a test. The battle spills into another wave of insect-like monsters, and Hoegwihan keeps cutting through them as if retreat is not even an option. The group clears the immediate danger, but the victory does not settle anything. Instead, the tension lands on Nara. Hoegwihan, the blonde hunter, and the others regroup in the open, and the conversation turns ugly because Nara is carrying fear, guilt, and the low-rank hunter mindset all at once. For people like him, a dangerous dungeon can look like the only rare chance to climb. Hoegwihan understands that logic too well, and that is why her words hit like a knife. She presses him about enemies, cowardice, and abandonment until the past starts leaking into the present. Then a red-haired man appears in a darker space and tells Nara his part is not finished, which means the dungeon is not done using him either. Nara's fear turns into the kind of confrontation nobody can walk away from cleanly. Hoegwihan stands over him with a look so cold it feels like judgment, asking whether he has anything left to say before death reaches him. But this is not just about Nara. Watch what this does to her. Her memory snaps back to the moment she begged to be saved, clinging to someone while the people around her considered leaving her behind or ending the problem. She remembers wanting to live and also believing she should have died, which is brutal because both feelings are true at the same time. The others try to stop her before she crosses a line they cannot forgive, but Hoegwihan is forcing Nara to face the same helpless terror she was forced to swallow. Then, before anyone can resolve it, the monster threat returns. The mood shifts after Nara's breakdown, but not into safety. Hyen tells him she feels a little better and thanks him, which sounds gentle until you realize what kind of relief she means. She is still thinking about being alone in that pit, abandoned all over again. Then the party pushes deeper and finds the proof that this dungeon is worse than advertised. Bodies, bones, and traces of previous raiders who never cleared it. System-like alerts start pointing toward failure, abnormal conditions, and the possibility of a dungeon break. That changes the entire mission. This is not a normal low-ranked run anymore. The hunters argue over retreating, regrouping, or forcing a clear, but Hyen clashes with the idea of depending on a party at all. And right then, the dungeon answers with a winged threat and an eerie blue figure. The blue corpse-like woman appears in the purple darkness, and the dungeon stops pretending this is just a fight. Her warning is simple and horrifying. If someone wants to live, the hand has to go. Nobody wants to accept that, because amputation sounds insane when you are still hoping for a normal rescue. But here's the thing. Hyen does not react like the others. She watches, measures, and understands faster, because she knows what a body becomes when survival is no longer clean. The affected arm becomes the center of the panic, like a curse or infection is spreading through touch itself. The group argues, hesitates, and wastes seconds they may not have. That is the dungeon's real trap. It does not only attack their bodies. It forces them to choose how much of themselves they are willing to cut away. The warning does not fade. It gets worse. The blue woman keeps pressing the same impossible survival choice, while the party tries to argue its way out of a curse that does not care about fairness. Hyen stays focused, but even focus cannot stop the battlefield from breaking open again. Shadowy monsters gather, system-like alerts flare, and the group is dragged from moral panic straight back into combat. Nara gets pulled into the pressure, the other hunters shout warnings from different angles, and the cursed hand becomes the one problem nobody can ignore. What makes this so tense is that every second of hesitation has a price. If they cut it off, someone is permanently changed. If they do not, the dungeon may swallow them all. And Hyen, of all people, knows exactly what surviving a body horror nightmare can do to a person. Then the dungeon turns its hatred directly onto Hyen. A penalty marks her as a traitor, and the monsters suddenly recognize her like she has offended the entire place. They swarm toward her, not randomly, but personally. Hyen smiles through blood and prepares to handle it alone, because that is the role burned into her. The tank absorbs the pain, so everyone else stays alive. But this time, the party does something her old team never did. They push back. The blonde hunter tells her no party should let one member carry too much by herself, and another hunter reminds her that fighting together is the point. That sounds simple, but for Hyen it is almost impossible to believe. Her old party treated her body like equipment. This group is trying to treat her like a person, right as the cursed force closes in. And here is where it gets brutal. Hyen stands bloodied before a huge dark monster, while a pale blue, master-like presence calls her its student, as if she has come to save him. Around her, shadowy creatures obsess over eating her, reducing her to something soft, small, and delicious. Not anymore. Hyen erupts with a red-black attack that tears through the monsters and leaves the battlefield wrecked. The hunters outside are stunned, because this is not ordinary tank strength. This is something born from survival, curse, and rage all fused together. But the emotional wound is still open. Hyen hears the possibility of being abandoned again and starts to fracture. Meanwhile, the tower or gate situation worsens outside. More hunters rush into emergency mode, and the master-like monster restrains the field while insisting he does not plan to kill them. They came to save his student, and now nobody knows what that really means. What makes this stretch work is that the dungeon is not only a monster arena. It is a trauma machine. Every threat mirrors what broke Hyen in the first place. Abandonment, bodily sacrifice, party roles, and the cruel idea that a tank should suffer quietly because that is useful. The new group is not perfect, but they challenge the old rule. They keep trying to share the burden, even when Hyen cannot understand why anyone would. So the real power-up here is not just the red-black destruction or the abnormal dungeon connection. It is the possibility that Hyen might learn survival without isolation. But with the master recognizing her, the dungeon may know more about her curse than any human does. Subscribe for the next manhwa recap, because Hyen's promise to her master just opened a much darker gate.